What's going on, everybody? Today I want to show you my top 10 favorite effects in Premiere Pro. They're all super fun, super easy to use, and you can get super creative with them. So with that being said, let's get right to it. So now we're in Premiere and we have our project completely set up. If you don't know how to set up your project, you can go watch my last video and I go over how to set up a project in Premiere and before Premiere and how you can have it organized and make editing run a lot smoother. I got my effects tab open. If you don't see it, you can go up here to window and make sure the check mark is checked by effects. But let's start the countdown. Starting with number 10, we have turbulent displace. And what that does is it makes your footage look really like wavy and warpy and super trippy. I see this effect a lot in the LSD by A$AP Rocky music video. It's just super hallucinogenic and just trippy. You can get super creative with it. So as you can see, it kind of gives it that little wave, warpy look, that rippling. You can like bump it up, make it way more intense, the size of it, the amount of it. But as you can see, that's a fun little one to play with. But let's get into the next one. Number 9, I went with change color. And what this does is it allows you to key a certain color and then you can completely change the hue of it. As you can see, I'm changing these lights. You can mess around with the settings to get the perfect glow that you like, or the perfect amount of color change that you like. And then I like to come in here and play with the hue, and that, as you can see, that changes the colors. And I like to make a keyframe at like the beginning and then another keyframe at the end where it just cycles through the hue a couple times, and then you can see it just like flashes the colors and it looks super trippy. And I love the look of that. I think that looks super sick, actually. That is change color, and as always, you can mess around with the settings over here and change it to however you like it. So number 8 is a pretty basic one, and that's drop shadow. And what drop shadow does is it just does what it sounds like. It just adds in a little shadow behind the layer that you drop it on. I just put it on this title sequence. I like to put it on titles, graphics, anything that's laying over top of another video. So right here, I put it on this title, and I'm going to come over here and mess with the controls, the distance and the direction. I like the way that looks. You can see the difference with and without it. It just helps make it a lot more visible. So that's drop shadow, and I think that can help really make your titles stick out a lot more, or your graphics stick out a lot more. Okay, for number 7, I chose Gaussian Blur. And why I chose Gaussian Blur over all the other blurs is just because I think it's the easiest blur to work with. And what you can do with it is just simply blur out anything. Let's say I want to blur out his face, so I make a little mask around his face, and then I come down here and I bump up the blurriness, and then boom, you can't see it. Or let's say I want to blur out everything but his face. Well, I made this mask around his face, I blurred it, and I just invert it, and boom, now everything but his face is blurry. So that's what Gaussian Blur is. You can use it to blur out faces, you can use it to blur out license plates, you can use it to blur out anything, and I think it is the perfect blur to blur out anything. So take advantage of that, and let's see what you can make with it. And that brings us to number 6. Number 6 is Ultra Key. And what Ultra Key is it's a green screen effect or a color key effect where you can key out any color from your video or from your image. So in this case, I keyed out all the green, and then I can drag in an image behind him and make that the background. And then as you can see, it looks a little grainy, so I can come in here, make sure my layer is selected, and then I come up here to mess with the controls, and you can kind of mess with them a little and make it more of what you want. You can come in here and I like to make it aggressive. I think that looks a lot better. But as you can see, it just completely removes the background, completely keys out that green, and makes you have a whole new shot. I highly recommend using this effect because with a green screen and Ultra Key, you can make any footage crazy. You can get super creative with it and make any image or any footage interesting. And number five is an audio effect, and it is Denoise. And what Denoise is it's an effect that helps you get rid of background noise, or maybe like an air conditioning or just room noise. Just helps you get rid of the little noise that you don't like in the background. So I don't know if y'all can hear it on YouTube, but you guys can watch this meter down here, the sound meter. This is with or without denoise, without the effect. See how it's just constantly rattling down there? That's that background noise. So when I put denoise on it, on the audio track, you can see that rattling, it's just gone. I highly recommend using this. It's perfect for interviews. You can use it to save yourself in situations. In any situation where there's just a little humming in the background or just a little background noise that you're trying to get out, whether it's wind, people talking, or just air conditioning. You can use denoise to get rid of all of that. Alright, now number 4. This is one of my all-time favorite effects. I think it can make your footage look so cool, and it completely just like rearranges how it looks, and that is gonna be Pasteurize Time. What Pasteurize Time does is it makes Premiere interpret your footage as a different frame rate. So you can change the frame rate of your footage. So this shot was shot in 24 frames per second, but I could come over here and I could change it to, let's say, 12 frames per second. Now you can see the footage is a lot more jittery. It looks a lot more stop motion like. And I can even bump this down to something lower, like 5, and it's gonna be like, it's almost really just taking a couple pictures of the shot. So this is a really cool effect that you can get super creative with. I use it in a lot of my music videos. It's just something that you can stylize your video in a different way. Number 3. What number 3 is Lumetri Color, and you can find it over here in the effects tab, and you can drag and drop it, and you have all the effect controls over here. But Premiere actually makes its own whole custom workspace for color, for Lumetri Color. So you can come over here to the color tab, and then you have all your controls over here. Just make sure your footage is selected in your timeline, and then you have all the power to control it over here. What Lumetri Color does is it gives you all these controls to change and tweak these little things of the footage. You can change all the colors. Lumetri Color is perfect for just a quick little color correct in Premiere, and I highly recommend that you use Lumetri Color on all your projects because you can really enhance what the footage looks like through color. So make sure to check out Lumetri Color and use that in your future projects. And number 2, this might be the effect I use the most in Premiere, and that is Warp Stabilizer. So I just applied it to here. It takes a second to render out, so you have to let it sit and render for a minute, but I'll show you what it looks like in just a second. What Warp Stabilizer does is it analyzes the background and interprets the footage and makes the camera movement a lot smoother than what it originally was. So I'll show you the difference in just a second. Alright, and there we go. So there it is. As you can see, that looks real smooth. And let's see what it looks like without it. Without it, oh yeah, real shaky. You can see it's super shaky, the camera's super wobbly, but then when we add that Warp Stabilizer onto it, which is nice and smooth, no camera shake. Definitely take advantage of Warp Stabilizer. It can save your shaky footage in so many situations. Sometimes it can be a little tweaky to work with, but I would say 85% of the time Warp Stabilizer can save your life. So definitely check out Warp Stabilizer. It'll make your footage way smoother, and it'll make your life just a lot easier and your footage way more cinematic. Number one isn't even necessarily an effect. You don't find it in the effect tab, but it is something that I think will absolutely take your video game to the next level, and it is so easy. It's a basic effect, and you can use it in so many different ways and get so creative with it, and I think everyone absolutely needs to know how to do this, and that is masking. So to create a mask, all you got to do is come up to your effects panel and go over to opacity and grab the little pen tool, and once you have the pen tool, you come over here and you just draw a little outline over your subject or whatever you want to mask out of the clip. So in this case, I'm going to mask out my friend Reggie here. We shot a music video in Santa Monica, and I'm just using some of the footage here for a quick example. But this is a very, very, very bad outline, but it's just to give you the idea of what it is. So as you can see, when I complete my mask, it gets rid of everything in the background. I'm gonna duplicate my footage, but what I like to do with this is I like to add a frame hold. So I just come down here and I right click and I hit add frame hold, and then once you do that, that makes this just a still image, and you can take this still image and you can add keyframes to it and make it look like it is like moving into the next shot. So I will add this keyframe right here and move it to the end of the shot, because that's where I want him to finish, and then I'll come like that, and then you can see it looks like he's moving into where he's going to be. Again, I think masking is one of the greatest things that you can learn in editing. It makes you so much better as an editor. You can get way more creative. You can use masks on your other effects. You can use masks just on your footage. You can use masks on everything, and the world of masks is indefinite. Deep dive into masking, deep dive into all these effects. Please send me your examples of your work. I would love to see what you all create. If you got any value out of this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy this content, please subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next video.